doctor, I have this terrible headache. Can you help me? I'll take these aspirin and go home and see if that helps. He comes in the next day, doctor, this headache it just won't go away. I'll take this stronger aspirin and try that. The guy comes in the third day, still not helping, doctor. And the doctor says, so what are you doing before you're getting these headaches? Well, I'm banging my head against the wall. So sometimes the cure is not in the trying to come up with a fancy painkiller when it's you have to get at the root of the problem, I guess. I'm not sure if you got the joke there, but
I got the joke. Yeah, no
it
problem.
was funny years ago, anyway.
The problem is what does this create in the vision level of the brain? You have to understand how does this affect the balance in one of the eyes in energy level. When you see double vision, you see two things. It means the ball of the eye in the line of the vision into the neural system sends the information slightly different than the other. So you see the two. Our brain used to decide how much of the mixture is going to use, but this time we cannot. So most probably it affects the structure of the brain in the level of the sight, and that's what you see at double vision. People who have double vision, if you have experience with them, like with a back head injury on the level of the eye, they see double. And because one slightly moves to the other. And one of the ways they bring it back in line, they put like a curtain, you know, those blinds, slide blinds on one eye, different bandwidth to the other, and then they adjust the two to get used. So it creates a movement or a position in respect to the brain, in respect to the eyeball. So it doesn't move off the line of the neural system of the vision. Otherwise you don't see anything, you become blind in the eye, because it focuses on the wrong place, not on the neural. So what is done is most probably creates a pressure. One moves slightly forward to the other and you see two of the same.
It also depends on how strong they make the coffee, no? Not like the Arabs or the Italians, which make very strong coffee, or the Americans that just make a tepid coffee, very light coffee.
They say, do you know why the Turks have a curled up shoes? Try their coffee, everything turns backwards. So strong.
It turns their eyeballs all over the place.
It could be the Gans water itself could be strong as well, perhaps.
It's the Gans water which affects the position. Depends how they made it, most probably.
It'll strengthen the coffee, almost certainly.
What is the effect of heat on ingesting Gans water is an interesting question too. If you take it hot water, it doesn't matter if it's hot water or cold water when you...
Don't think so. It's Gans is temperature independent.
Mm-hmm.
Because life lives even in the coldest part of the planet and in the universe.
Here we're drinking a lot of mate, the green tea we have in this zone, and with hot water, and it doesn't change the characteristics. You acquire just the good stuff about the plasmatic water.
Okay, there's a couple people that are asking. Jalal says, I have a small question. Do we have time, Mr. Keshe, or shall we wrap it up?
A few minutes, it's nearly 1 o'clock.
Okay, Jalal, and then Azar is asking if they can ask a question too. So we have those two people, if we can wrap it up with them, that would be good. Either one of you, let me see, I think, oh, Azar still has to be promoted. And there we go.
Good morning, Mr. Gash.
Good morning, Azar.
My question is on in your book, The Origin of the Universe, page 13, when you talk about antimatter, which is a stronger field, which is actually our soul, when they become, they loosen up, unwind, and they become lesser field. I mean, weaker field, they become materialized, but then the existence of that, it depends on other magnetic fields that make it to exist. So the question is, the 500 people that hold all the control of the humanity, the existence also depend on us, because without us they cannot live. For that reason, and they also know that's the truth, and that's why they cannot get rid of everybody, because they know the existence depend on other people. Am I right?
I prefer not to say much because it's us who has given them the right to abuse us. It is not them to be stronger. I call it British policy. British policy in the West and the rest of the world has been very simple. We are little, but we bring submission through blood. If you look all the British system, even in present time in different war zones wherever British are involved in with their American soldiers, mass murder is the rule of the game. You kill so much that the people get fed up of blood. And by tyranny and murder, you bring people, you frighten people to submission. Is that the 500, or is us who accepts to take the seat of let them do what they like to do? I can't see it anymore. It needs one or two people to literally bring the 500 into submission. You got to realize, I always say, these what you call 500, they're as strong as long as they sit in the throne of what they are. You bring them to the point where they feel their own action, they become as timid as us. So it's us who allows it, and it's us who puts it through that they can do what they like. So there is no 500, there is no 5,000. It's us who allows the abuse. It's a very, very, very straightforward. Very straightforward. They do this with us all the time. We accept it because it's the only way we know. But the position is, are they 500 or are they 5,000 or are they one? Or is it one who does everything else according to me? This I was explaining to somebody very recently. The structure of British system, nobody has ever understood. And I explained this before. And one island has brought more or less the whole planet into submission to do whatever out of total fear and murder. Because the British system is very, very simple. The simplicity of it is what carries it through. You have a government which gets elected for people every 4 years. But you have monarchy, which is the owner or the ruler of the government, of the nation. Government is for public, nation is for the monarchy. Government plans 4-year plan, we come and change taxes, few peanuts for here and there, we put roads or whatever. But the monarchy who actually owns everything is 200 years ahead. who's going to be, whose son's going to be the next president, the next kings. What do we have to do that we have an income? It's a family which needs to be fed to keep them in power. So they do any mayhem. In the house they are perfect, outside they carry mass murders. So have we allowed one family, one person, or as a council, what we call a privy council, plan for next 200 years, and then we follow every day with the government? We hope we do whatever we might do. All the nations which are not monarchy run have this problem, that they're only planned, and then the next war, and some things could be extended to 10 years, 15 years, but that's as far as they can go. But British monarchy is planned for next 150, 200 years. So is it one person who's deciding everything which happens around here and around everywhere else through total mass murder? Are we looking at who is going to be, what they're going to be, or when they become rich they are forced to accept the condition, or when they become prominent to accept the condition to be part of? So, or do we need to just raise the level of their soul and you find out they have no more to say? And the second one is the best choice. This way you don't fight it, you let their soul to fight their physicality, and it's so easy, and nobody has ever done it. And nobody wants to do it, because let it be. Look at the history of British monarchy in past 500 years. It's been total submission by blood. We killed so much till it's done. And before they had a few soldiers, now they have a 300 million soldiers called United States of America. Because British gave freedom to the black. In the Ghent Treaty of negotiated by the Russians between the Americans and the British, British never gave freedom to the Americans, to the white Americans. They were allowed to rule. And now we see the same process. American nation, the white American nation, has not got the freedom. They're still, they're more or less a slave to the contract, Ghent contract, which was signed. They're allowed, they call it 4th of July, but that was all we decide to run our terms 4 years, 8 years. The government is still monarchy in UK, and that's why we see in the present wars, Americans do all the aggression and everything else, but all the crimes corrected by British. Every position of the war you look, you will see, but it's not transparent to a lot of people, you don't see it. But for people who are educated in the background, we see it very clearly. Look at the Iraq war. Americans took Baghdad and the rest and the allies. British moved into Basra, nothing else, and there was no problem. Basra is a port of export of oil. We export 4 million, we don't pay a cent. They took the cream out of us. Look at the situation in Afghanistan. Thousands of American soldiers and allies got killed. British moved into Helmand. That was the whole policy, moved to Helmand. Production of opium increased 30 times. Where does it go? Who gets financed by it? Who receives the benefit of it? Why only British are allowed to be in Helmand? The social structure have not understood geopolitics of United Kingdom. Look at Libya. Who went to the central bank and took $140 billion of gold? Why is not added to the assets of British government? It's added to the assets of British monarchy. You don't find, where is this $140 billion of gold which shipped from central bank of Libya into United Kingdom? Doesn't show as a national asset. because it doesn't belong to the nation, it belongs to the monarchy. Same situation in Syria. Is the monarchy who's after the resources because it fits the others who are around to fit in. And who's losing? The soldiers, Americans, because this is part of the contract. They never gave freedom to the white Americans. They allow them, like British monarchy, to rule. The only thing they don't do, they don't have by name the king as the head of state. But in fact, they are foot soldiers. Look at the recent past, all the military motions. British has created a huge army called United States, run through London. And now, do we blame the 500 or do we blame the one? Look at the next hotspots where the Americans are running. See what's in it in the background for British. What are they looking for to gain? Very easily you see the politics. Because the nation plans for short-term government. You're happy to have a prime minister, you get 10 cents short. They plan how to have an income for next years, 100 years. Because this money which comes in, it becomes the backbone of their rules and their monarchy and their running. British monarchy is a perfect illustration of rules, if you understand it. They established the United Nations and they carry more or less 65% of the votes.
And then they have Canada and Australia as reservists.
But the thing is, you have 2 veto votes out of 5. They can veto anywhere. Because Americans veto for them or they veto themselves for themselves. That's why we get into all these wars and killing, and the Chinese and the Russians can't accept. You got to see the truth behind the structure. It's the only nation which has 2 voting rights in United Nations. And usually one suspends and the other 2 and the other one is brought in and they get what they want. It is a very, very, very well organized one-man band, one family. And this is why the British monarchy finds a lot of conflict with the Iranian regime. Iranian present regime is set copy of the British. Religious leaders, they can do what they like, and the government elected 25 years. And the religious leaders plan the long term. Ahmadinejad didn't plan the nuclear proliferation and the work of Iran. It was set by Ayatollah Khamenei. From the day he came into power, he could see the power of nuclear. And he guided it through, doesn't matter who was the prime minister. And this goes exactly as a match to what they've set up, because they understood the process. 2 different armies, one you call the Iranian army and one you call Sepah. British army and the American army, still the same, 2 different but the same. It's the first time ever a match has been set against them, and that's why they find it as, because now it can become a force. Understand the geopolitics, then you see how easily things done. How look what's been in the present wars, and who does it benefit in which way, and why is always American at the end of the wars? What's in it for British monarchy? Who collects the loot is the boss. You export 3 million barrels of oil a day. You don't pay nobody. You have $100 per day, and you're doing it since 10 years. And nobody knows who sells what. And American lost all the bodies. British collected all the loot.
Is it gonna end soon?
Pardon?
Is it gonna end soon?
You decide.
I think it's time for the tooth for the tooth, eye for the eye.
It's the time to elevate. That was the old way.
Yes, but this elevation, I don't think as we wanted is going to go that way. I think the way
You see, you always as you wanted. It depends what we gave on what condition to bring peace to humanity, or for you to find the satisfaction of your own, what I call ego. It is very easy to do it if you want.
So that's what I'm trying to do. That was my intention.
Let's see how good we become at it to elevate the others. But I taught you something, if you understood today, that it can do it very fast.
the hemoglobin.
Shall we call it a day?
Thank you.
I think so, Mr. Keshe.
Very much indeed. Thank you to all those who participated. We try to make it more than the others, and we teach in between. But the level of teaching goes very high from now on, step by step. There are a couple of things I received a reminder to explain to you. As we are developing to move away from hybrid generators to solid state and wireless system, we'll release the technology in next few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, because the hybrid failure would have been very high, and the solid state gives us the chance to be able to deliver a permanent solution. Hybrid system was bulky. Now that we're developing the solid state, it brings changes in our production and delivery. So you'll have a delay by about 3-4 weeks maybe before we do it. But we'll show it in public. We don't say when. We're expecting to show it very soon. That you see it, and then we have to put it through the production process of changing it, because the hybrid had the dynamic motors and it had compressors, and the new version is slightly different. And at the same time, as I said, when you go to solid state, you have to understand the process of wireless transmission, which we're trying to do it all in one go, that we don't need to change again. So we'll wait for that to be done. So next, those of you waiting for generators to be done in October, you just gotta wait a few more weeks, 3-4 weeks more or less, that we organize the change of the production into a solid state.
There was a question, Mr. Keshe, from Mojira Jan about the wireless generator and so on, about October 20th, which you just answered. But he's asking, or she, about how about in India? Can we join them in this in these countries that are coming together? Wireless generator.
We're trying to sort something out. As I said, we are joining a very large what I call research center operation, and this brings a lot of advantages and what they call new knowledge in. We have to understand how we're going to utilize this new addition, which might come in the next few weeks, and then we'll run it totally different way. We have seen people who come and learn and just go and abuse it. So as we learn, the habit of a man hasn't changed. We change it in a way that it benefits the whole humanity. The other point is respect to Ghana conference. We wish you all the best with the conference and those of you who attended. And hopefully in the next week or 2 weeks, we'll see the feedback from the conference. Thank you very much for today. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody in the background.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Very good. Okay, that'll end the 141st Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, October 13th, 2016. And as ever, thank you everybody for attending and for participating and all that. Okay, I'll end the live stream.